Hey, what up, guys? Coming to you this morning with the year-end top 10 for the 130-pound super featherweight division. Right now, we're going to be discussing numbers 2 through 5. So, counting them down. So, let's kick it off with number 5. Finishing the year number 5, 2019, is WBA. As of this moment, he's a WBA regular champion, Rene Alvarado, who headed into 2019 as the number 1 contender for the WBA belt, a distinction he got at the end of 2018 right there. But he hadn't really beaten anybody big to get that distinction. So Alvarado, he's kind of a journeyman, been around, been in the ring with Yuri Gamboa and some other fighters. But, wasn't too sure how good this guy really was going to be. And, he waited patiently. I think he stayed busy. He stayed busy and fought in April against some nobody and got a 6-round technical decision. Then in November, he cashed in on his mandatory shot when he took on Andrew Cancio, who had shocked the world and beaten Alberto Machado, who was the undefeated rising prospect. Now, for Alvarado, this wasn't just a title shot, it was a chance at revenge. He had lost back in 2015 to Cancio by 8th round knockout in a fight that he was ahead on the scorecards. So, but Cancio had been hot, and Alvarado, to me, looked like the underdog coming in, but he totally passed the test in this one. He completely outworked and beat up Cancio and opened a cut from a punch, and after the 7th round, the referee stopped the fight due to that cut, and Alvarado became the world champion, capturing his first world title. So, big-time win. He achieved his dream. I love when guys kind of fly under the radar and are able to do that. And now heading into 2020, everything's kind of wide open for him. Alvarado, he's last year he was tied for 10th, so he wasn't just ranked. He moves up 5 spots. He's 30 years old, so he's kind of in the prime of his career in terms of his age, but the guy has been around a while. His record stands at 32-8 with 21 knockouts. I think he needs to go into this year and just try to get bigger fights is what he needs to do. He fought for Golden Boy, so I'm assuming he's got some kind of contract with them. He should get an opportunity against somebody, and maybe he's waiting around for the Joseph Diaz Tevin Farmer winner. I think there's other options out there for him. I just think he needs to go after a big fight. Unifications are always good for a champion of his status who's not too well known. He's been around a while, so he needs to try to cash in now and get a bigger fight and see what he can do. But I like Alvarado. He's an all-action guy. Not the most talented, but he's all action, and he's never afraid to fight. So we'll see what he does heading into 2020. It's kind of wide open for him. Next, finishing the year at number 4 is former world title challenger Joseph Diaz Jr. Diaz was coming off of 2018 where he challenged for the world title at featherweight against Gary Russell Jr. and came up short, dropping a 12-round decision. But it was a very competitive fight halfway through, and Gary Russell's a very talented veteran. So, he didn't pass the test, but, he did well enough to impress people. He was young. Then he came back in August and was challenging for a vacant WBA regular title at featherweight, and he came in overweight against Jesus Rojas, a very credible fighter. The fight went forward. He ended up beating Rojas by a close unanimous decision, but he wasn't able to win his first world title. So, after that, though, he recognized that he had a weight issue, and he decided to move up to 130 pounds officially in 2019. And so, last year he was ranked, in the top 10. He decided to move up and try it out at 130, and he did that. So in February, he took on some little-known fighter named Charles Huerta, got a 10-round unanimous decision. Then in May, on the Canelo Jacobs undercard, he took on Freddie Fonseca and had a very good performance, dominated Fonseca, 7th round TKO, and stayed busy. Then he came back in September and took on some little-known guy named Jesus Cuadro, and this was kind of a last-minute fight that was thrown together. I think it was on Facebook Watch, and surprisingly, Cuadro gave him a really good fight, and he struggled. He ended up scoring a 12-round majority decision, but I think he was very much looking over Cuadro, and that's why this fight happened. So, that being said, after that, he wanted to sign a fight with Tevin Farmer, but they couldn't get the fight done. So Now, heading into 2020, he did get the fight done for January. But let's go over his credentials real quick. He's only 27 years old. He wasn't ranked in this division last year. He's only 27, and he's got a big opportunity ahead of him right here. His overall record stands at 30-1, 15 knockouts. So he's been there. He's a WBC's #2 contender, but he's getting a shot at the IBF title on January 30th against Tevin Farmer. And that's going to be on the DAZN card. They're actually serving as the co-feature, surprisingly, and it's going to be a big triple header during Super Bowl week. And I think it's going to be a good fight. To be honest, I'm picking Diaz to win this fight, but I do think Farmer could definitely win. It's close to a 50-50 fight, but I think Diaz is young enough. I think he's talented enough to beat Tevin Farmer and figure him out. And I got him winning a decision and becoming the new world champion and capturing his first world title. A win here for Diaz would be big because he's one of Golden Boy's bright stars on the rise. And you know, he's young, and he could definitely do some damage. His style is entertaining. He's kind of a boxer-puncher, but he's an entertaining fighter. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Joseph Diaz in this fight. So that's January 30th against Tevin Farmer for the IBF title. Next, and finishing the year #3 in the 130-pound super featherweight division is the undefeated and former featherweight champion of the world, Oscar Valdez. Valdez entered the year ranked as a featherweight and as a WBO featherweight champion. But he had kind of been at the tail end. He was coming off of 2018 where he got his career best win, a hard-fought decision against Scott Quigg, but he broke his jaw in that fight. So he took some time off to repair his jaw, and in February he came back on the Kovalev-Alvarez 2 undercard, and he dominated and got a great knockout win over little-known Carmine Tomasoni, 7th-round knockout win. And then in June, he returned to take on little-known Jason Sanchez, undefeated fighter, but he was unknown. He got a one-sided 12-round decision in that fight. So heading into 2000, after that, he was supposed to fight, in his mind, and what a lot of people were saying was Bob Arum was trying to set up a fight between Diaz and Carl Frampton for the IBF, or for the WBO title. But before his fight with, shortly after the Sanchez fight and before Shakur Stevenson's fight in July, the WBO mandated that he defend his title against Shakur Stevenson next. That's not what Bob Arum wanted, and it's not what Diaz wanted. They wanted Carl Frampton. So once that happened, Valdez decided he was going to vacate his featherweight title and move up in weight. He cited that he was having trouble making weight. I think there's a little bit of bullshit to that. Maybe that's the truth, but it's convenient that he was willing to fight Carl Frampton but not Stevenson. In a way, I get it. Stevenson is a tall order. The guy's very good, very talented, but I still would have liked to have seen the fight. But Valdez made his choice, and in November he returned and debuted at 130 pounds and took on little-known replacement Adam Lopez. He was supposed to fight Andres Gutierrez, but Gutierrez came in the biggest overweight I've ever seen, because this was a WBC final eliminator. He came in weighing 141 pounds, and the weight limit is 130. That is the biggest miss in weight I've ever seen a fighter make. But late replacement Adam Lopez, kind of a prospect on the rise, was on the undercard. He decided to step in and face Valdez. He actually knocked Valdez down, surprisingly, but Valdez came back, overwhelmed him, scored a 7th-round TKO, and stayed undefeated. That was a WBC title eliminator, though, and so that puts him in line for a world title shot. So his creds now. He wasn't ranked here last year. Again, he was ranked at featherweight. He's only 28, so he's in his prime, and he's been around a while. He was champion for quite a while, so he's kind of a veteran at 28. His overall record is 27-0 with 21 knockouts, and he's currently the WBC and the WBO's #1 contender. And what it looks like next, though, without little doubt, he's calling it, and Miguel Berchelt wants it as well. It looks like he's going to get a crack at the WBC title, and Miguel Berchelt, who is one of the top dogs in the division and a very good fighter, and that's going to be a very big fight. It'll be the biggest fight of his career, and if he can pull off that upset, he moves to #1 for sure. That fight has not been discussed as to when it's going to happen and finalized, but it looks pretty clear that that is going to be the next fight for Oscar Valdez, which is going to be a big one and a good one, and I can't wait to see it. So, you know, way to debut, way to get his opportunity, and now he has a huge opportunity to become the #1 fighter in a division for his first time and capture a championship in his second weight class. So we'll see what happens. That's undefeated former featherweight champion Oscar Valdez. And now finishing up this video and finishing 2019 #2 at the 130-pound super featherweight division is the former featherweight, actually former multi-division champion. I think he's a 4-division world champion, Leo Santa Cruz. He's technically still the WBA super champion at featherweight, and now he is the WBA super champion at super featherweight as well. He entered the year not ranked at super featherweight, though. He was ranked at featherweight as a champion there, and he actually fought at featherweight in his first fight. He took on replacement Rafael Rivera. It was a competitive fight, but he won every round, outclassed him, one-sided 12-round unanimous decision. He came back in November. He took a long time off and came back in November and decided to face off against little-known Miguel Flores and make his debut at 130. And because Gervonta Davis gave up his 130-pound super championship, they allowed Santa Cruz to move up and fight for the super championship at 130 pounds. So, you know, was surprised by that, the WBA doing that, but they let it happen, and WBA is very corrupt, and they do this kind of stuff a lot. But Santa Cruz is a proven solid fighter, so he went in and took on Flores. It was a competitive fight. He got a 12-round decision, unanimous decision, no doubts there. He clearly won. He said he had some kind of virus or a bug, and that's why he didn't knock him out. But either way, he got the win, and he's now a champion in another weight class. So heading into 2020, he's 31 years old. He's still in his physical prime, but he's kind of coming on the downside of that, and he really needs to make a splash now as to whether he is a pound-for-pound guy still and a legitimate fighter here. He hasn't done a lot in his last 3 years. And remember, guys, I look at the last 3 years and what you've done. And you know what? Santa Cruz hasn't done much the last 3 years. So I'm kind of disappointed in what he's been able to accomplish, because it hasn't been much. He's been inactive. I know a lot has to do with his dad having leukemia. I fully understand that, but we need to see Santa Cruz back in the ring. He is a name, and he draws people, and he's a good action fighter. So we're going to see now at 130 if he makes fights that people want to see. He called out Gary Russell Jr. You know, he called out Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis said, hey, bring it. Gervonta Davis fighting Yuriorkis Gamboa this weekend. He called him out. We're going to see if he's legit and he wants that fight. We don't know yet if that fight's going to happen for sure, but I hope it's either Davis or Russell next for Leo Santa Cruz. Russell has a mandatory defense of his 126-pound featherweight title in February, and then Gervonta Davis is fighting this weekend. So we're going to see which guy he wants to face. He's called out both of them, so we will see what happens. But Santa Cruz pretty much can do whatever he wants, and if people are willing to cross the street, which it looks like a lot more people are open to doing that, he can get pretty much whatever fight he wants. He has that kind of pull. We'll see what he decides to do in 2020. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Numbers 2 through 5, you had Leo Santa Cruz at number 2. You had Oscar Valdez at number 3. You had Joseph Diaz Jr. at number 4. And you had Rene Alvarado at number 5. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.